Imagine you're floating in warm, crystal clear water. The sun is above you. The ocean is calm. And then, you feel it. Not pain. Not yet. Just a whisper against your skin. A silk-thin thread, nearly invisible, dragging across your arm. By the time you realize what just happened, the venom is already racing through your bloodstream. Your vision blurs. Your heart begins to stutter. And the thing that did this to you? It has no brain, no heart, no blood. It doesn't even have eyes. It has drifted through Earth's oceans for over 500 million years, surviving 5 mass extinctions, outlasting the dinosaurs, outlasting entire continents, reshaping themselves. And it does not care that you exist. It never did. Welcome to the world of jellyfish. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you will never look at the ocean the same way again. Before we dive in, and I mean that literally, if you find the ocean as terrifying and beautiful as I do, smash that like button right now. It genuinely helps this channel more than you know. Subscribe if you're new, because we go deep, really deep, on the most bizarre, jaw-dropping creatures this planet has ever produced. And drop a comment below. Would you swim with jellyfish? Because after this video, your answer might change. Let's go. The first thing you need to understand about jellyfish is that they are not fish. They are not even close to fish. In fact, calling them jellyfish is almost offensive to the concept of biology itself. They belong to a group called Metazoa, a name taken directly from the Greek myth of Medusa, the monster whose gaze turned men to stone. And the scientists who named them weren't being dramatic. They were being accurate. Because jellyfish are, in almost every measurable sense, alien to everything we understand about complex life on this planet. They have no brain, no centralized nervous system, no heart, no lungs, no bones. They are roughly 95% water. And yet, and this is the part that should genuinely disturb you, they are extraordinarily effective predators. They hunt, they sting, they paralyze, they digest, and they do all of this with a body plan so ancient, so stripped down to its absolute essentials, that evolution has barely touched it in hundreds of millions of years. Why would it? When something works this well, you don't change it. What they do have is a nerve net, a diffuse web of neurons spread throughout their entire body, with no central command, no headquarters, no processing center. Think about what that means for a moment. Every decision a jellyfish makes, if you can even call it a decision, is made simultaneously, everywhere at once. There is no thinking. There is only reacting. And somehow, with nothing more than that, they have become one of the most successful life forms in the history of Earth. Let's talk about how old they really are, because this is where things start to get genuinely staggering. The earliest jellyfish fossils we've discovered date back approximately 550 million years. 550 million. For context, the first dinosaurs appeared around 230 million years ago. Modern humans have been around for roughly 300,000 years. The jellyfish were already ancient beyond comprehension by the time the first land animals crawled out of the sea. They were already ancient when the oxygen content of Earth's atmosphere was still being established. They have watched this planet transform in ways we can barely imagine. Supercontinents splitting apart, ice ages swallowing the poles, asteroid impacts that darkened the sky for decades. And through every single one of those catastrophes, through every extinction event that wiped out the vast majority of life on Earth, jellyfish survived. Every single time. There have been 5 major mass extinctions in Earth's history. 5 events so catastrophic that they erased the dominant life forms of their era entirely. The jellyfish sailed through all of them, barely affected, barely changed. And when scientists try to understand why, the answer is almost poetic in its simplicity. They need almost nothing. No oxygen-rich water, no specific food source, no stable temperature, no complex biological systems to maintain. In a world turned hostile, the creature with the fewest needs is the one that survives. And jellyfish have always had the fewest needs of anyone. But let's not let that simplicity fool you, because underneath that translucent, ghostly exterior, jellyfish hide some of the most sophisticated biological weapons on the planet. Every jellyfish has tentacles, and inside those tentacles are structures called nematocysts, microscopic, spring-loaded capsules that are, by almost every measure, the fastest biological mechanism in the known animal kingdom. When triggered, by chemical signal, by physical contact, by even the faintest pressure wave in the water. A nematocyst fires in 700 nanoseconds. 700 nanoseconds. That is faster than a bullet leaving a gun. The acceleration forces involved are so extreme that they exceed anything a human-made machine can replicate at that scale. And a single jellyfish can have millions of these capsules, each one ready to fire, each one loaded with venom. The venom itself varies wildly between species. Some jellyfish stings feel like a mild irritation, a nettle sting on the beach, annoying, forgotten by lunchtime. But others carry toxins so potent, so precisely engineered by hundreds of millions of years of evolution, that they can kill a human being in less time than it takes to swim to shore. And this is where we need to talk about the box jellyfish. If the ocean has a final boss, a creature that sits at the apex of what evolution can produce in terms of lethality, the box jellyfish is a very strong candidate. Found primarily in the warm waters of the Indo-Pacific, off the coasts of Australia, the Philippines, and throughout Southeast Asia, the box jellyfish is widely considered the most venomous marine animal on Earth. Possibly the most venomous animal, period. They are not large, roughly the size of a basketball in their bell, with tentacles that can extend up to 3 meters. They are almost completely transparent. In the water, in certain lighting, you cannot see them at all. They are essentially invisible death, drifting on the current, patient in the way that only mindless things can be patient. Their venom attacks on 3 simultaneous fronts. It destroys red blood cells. It attacks the nervous system. And it devastates the cardiovascular system directly, causing the heart to go into cardiac arrest. The pain that accompanies envenomation is described by survivors, the lucky ones, as unlike anything human language has adequate words for. People stung by box jellyfish have been documented going into shock, losing consciousness, and dying within 2 to 5 minutes of contact. Not hours, minutes. The venom works that fast. There are documented cases in Australia of children dying before they could even be carried out of the water by bystanders. The adults who tried to help them were sometimes stung in the process. In Australia, box jellyfish have killed more people than sharks, crocodiles, and stonefish combined over certain documented periods. And yet most people, if you asked them to name a deadly ocean animal, would say shark. The box jellyfish moves through the same beaches. It doesn't announce itself. But the box jellyfish isn't done being terrifying, because it has one more secret that sets it apart from virtually every other jellyfish on Earth. It has eyes. Real eyes. 24 of them, arranged in 4 clusters of 6 around its bell. And these are not simple light-detecting organs, not the rudimentary photoreceptors you might expect from an animal with no brain. These are complex eyes, structurally similar to human eyes, with corneas, lenses, irises, and retinas. They can form images. They can track movement. Scientists studying them found that box jellyfish can navigate around obstacles, that they actively seek certain types of light environments, that they appear to engage in something that looks, disturbingly, like purposeful behavior. How does a creature with no brain process visual information? How does it use 24 eyes simultaneously? We genuinely don't know. It's one of the most fascinating unsolved problems in neuroscience and evolutionary biology. What we do know is that those eyes give box jellyfish a hunting advantage that most jellyfish don't have, and it makes them even more effective at doing the one thing they're already terrifyingly good at. And then, lurking in the shadow of its larger cousin, is something even more insidious. The Irukandji jellyfish. This creature is roughly the size of your thumbnail. Its bell is about 1 centimeter across. Its tentacles, fully extended, might reach 15 centimeters. It is so small that it is essentially invisible in open water, and it carries a sting that medical professionals have described as one of the most horrifying experiences a human body can endure and survive. Irukandji syndrome, the name given to the condition produced by its venom, begins deceptively mildly. The initial sting is often barely noticed. Occasionally there's a small red mark, sometimes nothing at all, and then, 20 to 30 minutes later, the syndrome descends. Catastrophic lower back pain. Severe cramping in every major muscle group simultaneously. Nausea so violent that patients have been documented vomiting continuously for hours. An overwhelming, irrational, all-consuming sense of impending doom. a neurological feature of the venom that causes patients to become absolutely certain they are about to die. And they mean it. There are documented cases of Irukandji victims in the grip of this chemically induced terror, begging doctors to kill them to end the suffering. The venom contains catecholamines, chemicals that trigger a massive surge of adrenaline throughout the body. Blood pressure can spike to levels that cause hemorrhagic stroke. The heart races. The blood vessels constrict. For hours, sometimes longer. And this is caused by something the size of your fingernail, drifting invisibly through the water at popular tourist beaches. The Irukandji has been found as far from its traditional range as the UK, the Mediterranean, and the Atlantic coast of Florida. Climate change is pushing it further from home every decade. But death and venom are only part of the jellyfish story. Because there is one species, one extraordinary, impossible, rule-breaking species that has found a way around the one thing no living organism has ever beaten. Death itself. Turritopsis dohrnii, the immortal jellyfish. It doesn't look like much, a tiny bell, barely a few millimeters across, transparent and unremarkable. But what it can do is so biologically extraordinary that when scientists first documented it, many of their colleagues refused to believe the results. Most animals age. They develop from juvenile to adult, they reproduce, and eventually they die. That is the contract of life. Every living thing on Earth is bound by it. Turritopsis dohrnii rewrites the contract. When this jellyfish is stressed by physical damage, disease, starvation, or the onset of old age, it does something no other animal on Earth can do. It reverts. Completely and entirely. It sinks to the ocean floor. Its body collapses inward. And it transforms, cell by cell, back into a juvenile polyp, its earliest life stage. It becomes young again, fully young. And then it begins to grow again, into an adult, capable of repeating the process indefinitely. This process, called transdifferentiation, is essentially biologically impossible according to the rules that govern every other multicellular organism. Specialized adult cells simply do not revert to stem cells. They cannot. Except that somehow, in this tiny, apparently unremarkable jellyfish, they can. Scientists studying Turritopsis dohrnii believe the implications may eventually touch some of the most profound questions in human medicine: aging, cancer, regenerative biology, cellular reprogramming. If we can understand how this animal reverses the aging process at a cellular level, the potential applications for human longevity research are staggering. The immortal jellyfish may be the most medically important animal in the ocean, and almost no one has heard of it. While we're in the realm of the extraordinary, let's go somewhere most humans have never been: the deep sea. Because if surface-dwelling jellyfish are strange, deep-sea jellyfish are something else entirely. Below 600 meters, the point where sunlight cannot penetrate even at the surface, the ocean becomes a world of permanent, crushing darkness. Temperature hovers just above freezing. Pressure is hundreds of times what we experience at sea level. And in this lightless, frigid, immense darkness, jellyfish have evolved into forms that look less like animals and more like hallucinations. Deepsteria, a jellyfish that drifts through the mesopelagic zone, looks, astonishingly, like an enormous, slow-moving plastic bag. A translucent sheet, sometimes over a meter across, that engulfs its prey by collapsing around it like a living trap. It was first filmed in its natural environment relatively recently, and the footage went viral for good reason. It looks like nothing that should exist. It looks like something from a science fiction film. But it is real, and it lives in the darkness below you whenever you're at sea. Then there is Priate dubia, technically a siphonophore rather than a true jellyfish, but a close enough relative to deserve a mention, which can reach lengths of up to 40 or 50 meters. 40 to 50 meters. That makes it potentially the longest animal ever recorded on Earth. Longer than a blue whale. A gelatinous, bioluminescent chain of specialized organisms working as a single entity, drifting through the deep ocean producing its own cold light, a living ghost in the abyss. And bioluminescence deserves its own moment here, because it is one of the most breathtaking things jellyfish do, and it remains one of the great aesthetic miracles of the natural world. Approximately 75% of all deep-sea creatures produce their own light through bioluminescence, and jellyfish are among the most spectacular practitioners of this ability. Species like Echoria victoria produce stunning blue-green pulses of light through a protein called green fluorescent protein, or GFP, which, when scientists isolated and cloned it in the 1990s, became one of the most revolutionary tools in the history of biological research. GFP is now used in laboratories worldwide to tag and track living cells, to watch cancer spread in real time, to observe individual neurons firing in a living brain. The Nobel Prize in Chemistry was awarded in 2008 to the scientists who developed its applications. The source of that Nobel Prize? A jellyfish. In the dark waters of the deep ocean, some jellyfish pulse with light when disturbed, broadcasting flashes of bioluminescence that either warn predators, attract prey, or, in some cases, appear to call for help by lighting up the area around them, drawing in larger predators who might attack whatever is currently attacking the jellyfish. That is not a simple reflex. That is a survival strategy, sophisticated, multi-step, and effective, executed by an animal with no brain. Now let's talk about what happens when jellyfish stop being individual curiosities and become a force of nature. A bloom of jellyfish, the technical collective noun, can be one of the most overwhelming biological phenomena on the planet. There are blooms so vast that they are visible from space. Blooms that stretch across hundreds of kilometers of open ocean. Blooms so dense that fishing nets fill with nothing but jellyfish, tearing under the weight. In 2009, a massive bloom of Nomura's jellyfish, a species from the waters between Japan and China that can weigh up to 200 kilograms per individual animal, capsized a 10-ton fishing trawler when its crew tried to haul in a net full of them. A fishing trawler, capsized by jellyfish. Nomura's jellyfish blooms have been growing in frequency and scale over the past several decades. One bloom event brought together what scientists estimated at 500 million individual animals, each one the size of a refrigerator. The total biomass of that single bloom outweighed the entire annual fish catch of Japan. 500 million animals, each one the size of a refrigerator, forming a living wall in the ocean. And Nomura's isn't alone. In the Black Sea, the comb Jellyfish ladii, accidentally introduced via the ballast water of cargo ships in the 1980s, reproduced so explosively in the absence of natural predators that it reduced fish populations to near-commercial extinction throughout the entire sea. The fishing industry of several countries around the Black Sea essentially collapsed. The biomass of this single invasive species at its peak was estimated at 900 million tons, outweighing all the fish in all the world's oceans combined. 900 million tons of jellyfish in a single body of water. The ecological devastation was staggering, and the recovery took decades. This is the part of the jellyfish story that marine biologists find most alarming and that most people don't know about. Because what's happening in the Black Sea is not an anomaly. It is a preview. As ocean temperatures rise due to climate change, jellyfish thrive. Warmer water accelerates their reproduction. It expands their range. Meanwhile, the fish that would normally compete with them for prey, and the animals, sea turtles, ocean sunfish, certain sharks, that would normally eat them, are declining due to overfishing, habitat loss, and bycatch. The ocean is being tilted, deliberately and accidentally, toward jellyfish. Some oceanographers have begun using a term for where this trajectory leads: the rise of slime. A future ocean dominated not by fish, not by whales, not by any of the creatures we currently associate with marine ecosystems, but by gelatinous, pulsing, immortal, brainless masses of ancient life reclaiming the seas they have always owned. That is not a science fiction scenario. It is a possibility that serious scientists are publishing papers about right now. And understanding jellyfish, really understanding them, is one of the first steps to understanding whether we can change that outcome. Let's talk about how they hunt, because the mechanics of it are as elegant as they are brutal. Most jellyfish are not active hunters. They do not chase prey. They don't need to. They drift on the current, tentacles spread in a curtain below them, and they wait. The ocean brings food to them. Zooplankton, small fish, fish eggs, larvae, anything small enough to contact a tentacle is immediately immobilized by the nematocysts, wrapped in mucus, and drawn up toward the central mouth. The mouth, by the way, serves double duty. Food goes in through it, and waste comes back out through it. The same opening. There is no separate digestive exit. Whatever the jellyfish eats, whatever it can't use, comes back out the way it went in. What makes this more remarkable is the sheer efficiency of it. Some jellyfish can consume prey many times their own body weight in a single feeding event. And because they are largely water themselves, their metabolic needs are extraordinarily low. They can go weeks, sometimes months, without food and remain functionally active. They can shrink their bodies during periods of starvation, actually reduce their physical mass, and then regrow when food becomes available again. There is almost nothing nature can do to starve a jellyfish to death. They are optimized for resilience in a way that makes our own biological machinery look wasteful and fragile by comparison. Some jellyfish take the hunting approach to its most violent extreme. The lion's mane jellyfish, the largest species in the world, with bells that can reach over 2 meters in diameter and tentacles extending more than 35 meters, is an active, voracious predator. It doesn't just drift and wait. It pulses actively through cold northern waters, the Arctic, the North Atlantic, the seas around Scotland and Norway, and it actively corrals fish. Using its bell like a slow-motion trap, it herds schools of small fish into tighter and tighter formations before engulfing them in its tentacles. It is not a passive filter. It is an apex predator, operating at a scale most people would never attribute to something that looks like a translucent umbrella. Arthur Conan Doyle wrote a Sherlock Holmes story in which a lion's mane jellyfish was the murderer, stranded on a beach, its tentacles still lethal long after death. That story, written in 1926, turns out to be scientifically accurate. A dead jellyfish, washed up on a beach, can still fire nematocysts for hours or even days after death. People have been stung by what they thought were dead jellyfish. They weren't wrong to approach. The animal was dead. But the weapons? The weapons were still loaded. The role jellyfish play in ocean ecosystems is one of the most underappreciated stories in marine science. For decades, scientists viewed them largely as a nuisance, creatures that bloomed, disrupted fishing, and died back without contributing much to the broader food web. That view has been fundamentally revised. When jellyfish die, and when they die fast, sinking rapidly to the ocean floor in events that marine biologists have nicknamed jelly falls. They deliver an enormous pulse of carbon and nutrients directly to the deep seafloor. This carbon, removed from surface waters and deposited in the deep ocean, represents a significant contribution to the ocean's carbon sequestration capacity. In a world trying to grapple with carbon cycling and climate change, jellyfish falls may be playing a role in regulating Earth's carbon budget that we are only beginning to quantify. Furthermore, jellyfish are prey for more animals than we previously understood. Leatherback sea turtles, the largest reptile on Earth, eat almost exclusively jellyfish. Ocean sunfish, which can weigh over 2 tons, feed primarily on them. Certain species of albatross consume jellyfish. Tuna, swordfish, and many commercially important fish eat jellyfish regularly, particularly during their juvenile stages. The assumption that jellyfish are a dead end in the food web, consumed by nothing, cycling nutrients into nothing, is wrong. They are nodes in a web more complex than we imagined. There are some truly bizarre jellyfish behaviors that deserve their own spotlight, because evolution has produced some genuinely surreal solutions to the challenges of ocean life. The upside-down jellyfish, Cassiopeia, doesn't drift. It sits on the seafloor or on mangrove roots, bell facing down, tentacles waving upward. It has a commensal relationship with photosynthetic algae, zooxanthellae, that live within its tissues. Like a coral, the jellyfish positions its tentacles upward to maximize sunlight exposure for these algae, effectively farming them for the nutrients they produce. A jellyfish. Farming. Photosynthetic algae. From the bottom of the ocean. The line between animal and plant biology blurs in the most extraordinary ways when you study Cassiopeia long enough. And then there are the jellyfish of Jellyfish Lake in Palau, an isolated marine lake on a small island, cut off from the open ocean millions of years ago. The golden jellyfish that live there have, over millennia of isolation without predators, lost most of their stinging ability. They evolved something else instead. They migrate. Every single day, the entire population of millions of golden jellyfish, millions of them, filling the lake, migrates across the lake, following the path of the sun, keeping their symbiotic algae in the light. Every morning, west to east. Every afternoon, east to west, like a living tide, driven by the sun, guided by no brain, no map, no memory, just chemistry and light. Swimming through the lake in a golden, shimmering mass that divers who have experienced it describe as one of the most transcendent natural encounters on Earth. The scientific discoveries surrounding jellyfish just in the past decade have been remarkable. Researchers have found that some jellyfish possess a type of spatial learning. They can be conditioned to alter their swimming behavior in response to visual obstacles in a way that suggests something approaching memory formation, even without a centralized brain. The implications for neuroscience are profound. If memory can form without a brain, if cognition itself can exist in a distributed network of neurons with no central hub, then everything we think we know about consciousness, intelligence, and what it means to think becomes significantly more complicated. Jellyfish venom research has produced promising avenues for new painkiller development, cancer-fighting compounds, and anticoagulant medications. GFP, derived from jellyfish, remains one of the most used tools in biomedical research worldwide. Scientists studying jellyfish locomotion have produced insights that are being applied to the design of soft robotics, machines that move through fluid environments the way jellyfish do, with an efficiency of movement that current rigid robotic designs cannot match. The Navy has funded research into jellyfish-inspired unmanned underwater vehicles. The military applications of jellyfish biology, silent, efficient, impossible to detect, are not lost on anyone. There is something deeply humbling about jellyfish when you consider the full sweep of what they represent. They are not charismatic. They are not cuddly. They don't have faces. They have no personalities, no voices, no families in any sense we recognize. And yet they have been here, continuously, for longer than complex life on land has existed. They have watched the Cambrian explosion, watched fish evolve, watched the first land plants emerge, watched the dinosaurs rise and fall, watched mammals take over the earth, watched humans emerge from the African savanna and spread across the planet. Through all of it, jellyfish drifted. They fed. They reproduced. They waited. And now, as human activity reshapes the ocean, warming it, acidifying it, depleting it of fish, jellyfish may be poised for their greatest expansion in millions of years. The ocean their ancestors dominated before complex life changed everything, may be slowly, gradually returning. Not through any intention, not through any plan, simply because the conditions that favor them are returning, and they have always been ready. They have always been ready for anything. They have been ready for 500 million years. The next time you stand at the edge of the ocean, look out at the water. The surface is calm. The water is clear. And beneath it, invisible and patient, drifting on currents that have moved since before memory, something ancient is waiting. Not for you specifically. Not for anything, really. But waiting, the way only something truly immortal can wait. With absolute, total, unhurried certainty that it will still be here long after everything else is gone. That's the jellyfish. And now you know what it really is. If you made it to the end of this video, you are absolutely my kind of person. Drop a comment with the most insane jellyfish fact you just learned. I read every single one. And if this video blew your mind, even a little, share it with someone who thinks they already know everything about the ocean. Trust me, they don't. Subscribe for more deep dives into the most extraordinary creatures on this planet. I'll see you in the next one.